As we see happen roughly every 6 weeks, the FOMC got together yet again and decided on a monetary policy for the weeks to come. And of course, where they landed is keeping rates the same. Now you might ask yourself, well, why do you say of course they kept it the same? The reality is, guys, if you've been following my channel, you'll know that we've been talking about how the Fed is viewing this whole situation in Iran with the oil crisis just like another supply shock, like it did with tariffs. And their whole concept is that this is a one-time shock that they expect to sort of just resolve itself over time. Now, of course, there is concern, and Jerome, when he spoke to the press, talked about how there's a little bit of a leaning in a different direction coming from the Fed, because unlike we've seen in the past, there were 4 dissenters on the statement that was put out from the Fed today. And basically what they were trying to say is, while most of the Fed is still in terms of whether or not the future holds easing or rate hikes are the same, they're trying to err on the side of easing as they have with no real change to policy. But the 4 dissenters disagreed and said that they think we should be more neutral at this point in time, considering how bad things have gotten. And this is really interesting, right? Because this is the first time since 1992 that there have been 4 dissenters within the Fed. And it actually sparked some conversation from the press asking Jerome, do you think that this is you leaving the Fed on a note of division? Which he rebutted, of course, saying that this is crazy times, right? And we have 4 different supply shocks in the past number of years, including things like COVID, tariffs, Iran, et cetera, et cetera. And with all of that being the case, it's really hard to get 19 different FOMC members on the same page, which does make sense. Now, that aside, Jerome did talk about a little bit more in depth some of the state of the economy, and it did sound very familiar to what we heard at the last FOMC meeting. For example, he talked about how consumer spending is still up, but we know that the top 10% of earners account for about 50% of all spending in the US. So this number, while yes, for their sake and an overall economy perspective, which is what the Fed cares about, is a little bit skewed. Now, business investments, he did say, are also up, and this does make sense because he alluded to that is strongly led by the push for data centers. But other than that, he did mention that there are a couple dismal sectors in the economy. For example, the job sector still doesn't look good, as there still has been about 0 net job creation. Even though unemployment has stayed relatively low, there's definitely signs of struggle in the jobs market. Not only that, but the housing market, of course, is still struggling. And PCE inflation, he re-reported, which we found out, of course, in early April, is 3.5% for producers in the month of March. So, of course,